In this section of notes, we're going to look at confidence intervals again, but this time we're going to look at them for a difference in proportions. So you would do this when you would want to estimate whether or not some group is different from another group. Now, we're going to use this same general formula in words every single time we do a confidence interval. So there's going to be, I think, probably about 5 different types of confidence intervals that we do throughout the course. This is going to be our second one. We already did our 1 sample proportions. Now we're going to look at 2 sample proportions, but you use the same general formula every time. The thing that changes is what you end up plugging into the formula. So when you have 2 groups, you want to use the p hat sub 1 minus p hat sub 2. That's going to be what goes into the statistic before the plus or minus sign. Your critical value is still going to be determined by the level of confidence you want and the corresponding z-score. But this is your formula for the standard deviation of the statistic that you're going to be plugging in after the critical value. Now, just like before, this is on your formula sheet. It's not something you need to memorize, and it's pretty understandable. So the 1s and 2s just mean whether or not that's the probability of success and the sample size from group 1 or from group 2 respectively. So all of that is going to be the same. The conditions are going to be the same. You're going to see a lot of overlap here. So now one way our conditions change just the tiniest little bit is that now you need to check the conditions for both groups. So not only do you need to have 2 samples that are randomly selected, or if you're doing an experiment that are randomly assigned, you also need them to be independent of each other. So for example, you couldn't compare the same group with itself. You couldn't compare a group of brothers with a group of sisters or something like that. So they would need to be independent of each other. The 10% condition that you're using because you're sampling without replacement, you basically just need to do twice. You need to make sure that the sample from group 1 is less than 10% of the population for group 1, and then you repeat that again with group 2. And same thing for large counts, where we used to just do n times p and n times 1 minus p. You're basically just going to do that twice with each group, and you need them both to be greater than or equal to 10. So again, these should look familiar because these are similar to what we did when we were working with our sampling distributions. So here is our overall formula, and we know that we're going to be using our z-scores. Before you go on and try the practice problems, make sure you watch the additional video on how to use your calculator. So just like we did that state plan do conclude in the previous section, everything's very similar. We just talked about now how our conditions would be just a tiny bit different. This time your name of your procedure is a 2 sample z interval for P1 minus P2. You're still going to state the parameter of interest and the confidence level, and then you still have the choice of using the formula and showing everything by hand for the do step, or using your calculator, which is the other video you're going to take a look at. And then you still have your conclude step with that fill in the blank sentence. We are blank % confident that the interval from blank to blank captures the true blank of blank. You're going to keep using that throughout. So again, watch the video on how to do the 2 sample z interval for difference of proportions on your calculator, and then try the practice problems.